It started like any other humid evening: heavy air, gas fumes, the glow of fluorescent lights cutting through the dark. I remember gripping my swollen belly, breathing through the pain as I leaned against the car door. Mom sat inside the passenger seat scrolling her phone. Dad was at the pump, impatient as always, tapping his foot like filling the tank was the hardest thing he'd done all day. "Mom," I whispered through clenched teeth, "I think it's time." She didn't look up. "You're always so dramatic, Clara. You said that last week. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video." Another contraction hit like lightning, and my knees almost buckled. I pressed my palm against the window. "Please, my water's breaking." She finally looked at me then, not with concern, but annoyance. She rolled the window halfway down, her voice sharp and cold. "You chose this, remember? You chose that baby over your family, so don't expect us to pick up the pieces." I stared at her through the glass, my reflection warped by tears. "I didn't choose anything. You're my family." "Not anymore," she cut in, and the window rolled up. Dad looked at her, sighed, then muttered something about me being another mistake. He climbed back in, and before I could even move, the car door clicked shut and the engine roared to life. They drove off. The red taillights smeared across the dark road like a cruel afterimage. I was left standing there in the flickering light of the gas station, doubled over with pain and fear. The cashier inside stared through the glass but didn't move, maybe thought it was some kind of scene. I stumbled toward the bench near the trash bins, my hands shaking, breath short. My dress stuck to my skin with sweat. I dialed their number again, straight to voicemail, then again. And again. "Mom, please," I sobbed into the phone. "I'm scared. Please come back." No answer. Minutes blurred into hours. I remember the feeling of gravel under my palms when I collapsed beside the curb. A man's voice broke through the chaos. "Ma'am, you okay?" It was the gas station attendant. Maybe 19, 20. He ran to me, panic on his face. "I'm calling 911, just hang on." He knelt beside me, his hands trembling as he tried to comfort me. I think his name was Ryan. He took off his jacket, put it behind my head, and said, "You're not alone, okay? Help's coming." I wanted to thank him, but another contraction stole my breath. My world became flashing lights, sirens, and voices fading in and out. The paramedics arrived, lifting me into the ambulance as I clutched Ryan's hand until they pulled him away. At the hospital, everything moved fast, nurses shouting, lights burning my eyes, the sound of my own heartbeat crashing in my ears. I gave birth to my son at 3:12 a.m. I remember the moment they placed him in my arms, tiny, crying, alive. For the first time in years, I felt something like purpose. But right behind that joy came the hollow ache of knowing my parents weren't there. No congratulations, no phone call, nothing. When I texted them a photo of him, the reply came hours later. "Hope you enjoy your new responsibility. Don't call when it gets hard." I didn't reply. I looked at my baby's face, at his little hands curling around my finger, and I decided then, if they wanted distance, I'd give them miles. The nurses kept asking if anyone would visit me. I said no. I signed my own discharge papers. I went home to a tiny one-bedroom apartment with nothing but a second-hand crib and a baby wrapped in thrift store blankets. For months, I lived in silence. Between feedings, bills, exhaustion, and the quiet hum of loneliness. My parents' faces haunted me sometimes, but I shut them out like static. They had chosen pride. I had chosen love. And as I watched my baby grow, his first smile came one morning when the sunlight hit the crib just right, and I realized that the emptiness I'd been carrying had turned into something else. Strength. I didn't know it then, but one day they'd come crawling back, faces pale, voices trembling, desperate for the same daughter they left bleeding on the side of the road. And by then, I'd be ready. The first year after that night at the gas station was the hardest thing I'd ever lived through. Every sound that came from my baby's crib, every cry, every cough, jolted me awake like a gunshot. There were nights when I'd stare at the cracked ceiling of my apartment and whisper to myself, "You can do this, Clara. You have to." Money was tight. I picked up 2 jobs, cashier by day, janitor by night. Sometimes, when I came home past midnight, I'd find my baby still awake, kicking gently under the glow of the streetlight that slipped through the blinds. I'd scoop him up, press my face against his warm cheek, and whisper, "It's you and me now. We don't need anyone else." But I lied, at least I tried to, because every time I passed a mother hugging her daughter in the grocery store or saw an old couple smiling at a baby, it twisted something inside me. My parents hadn't just walked away from me, they walked away from him, their grandson. The same people who threw parties for my brother's dog didn't even send a message when their own flesh and blood was born. Still, I kept going. I had to. Years rolled on. My son, Ethan, grew fast. Too fast. He had my eyes and a laugh that could melt walls. But every time he asked about Grandma and Grandpa, I'd pause. "They live far away," I'd say. It wasn't a lie. Distance wasn't measured in miles, it was measured in heart. When Ethan turned 4, I saved enough to move us into a slightly better neighborhood, small backyard, peeling white fence, but to us it felt like a mansion. I planted flowers along the porch, the kind my mom used to love, marigolds, her favorite. Maybe some broken part of me still hoped she'd see them one day. Then one afternoon, everything changed. I was at work at a small diner downtown when a familiar voice cracked through the noise of clinking dishes and chatter. "Clara?" I froze. That voice, smooth, condescending, wrapped in fake warmth. It couldn't be. But when I turned, there she was, my mother, standing in front of the counter like a ghost made of perfume and old memories. Her hair was gray now, her lipstick faded, her eyes carrying something I'd never seen before. Fear. "Mom?" The word slipped out before I could stop it. She smiled weakly. "You've done well for yourself." I wanted to laugh, but the sound wouldn't come. "Did you get lost on your way to disown me again?" Her smile faltered. "Please, Clara, we need to talk." I crossed my arms. "Now you want to talk?" "Your father." She hesitated, looking around at the diner, lowering her voice. "He's not well. The business failed. We lost the house. And your brother, he left. We don't have anyone else." I stared at her for a long time, not because I didn't understand what she was saying, but because of how calm she was saying it. Like it was natural. Like after abandoning me on the side of the road, she could just walk back into my life because it was convenient. "Let me guess," I said finally. "You need money." She didn't deny it. Her silence said more than words ever could. "You know," I whispered, leaning closer. "The last time I saw you, I was in labor. You rolled up the window while I begged you for help. You watched me collapse on concrete and drove away. You said I chose the baby, not you. So tell me, Mom." My voice broke into a low growl. "Why would I choose you now?" Her face twisted, shame, guilt, maybe anger. "You're still my daughter," she said softly. "No," I said, "I'm your consequence." She left in tears that day, but it wasn't the end. 2 weeks later, she came again, this time with my father. His arrogance had drained out of him. He walked with a limp, wearing an old jacket that probably hadn't seen a wash in years. I caught him standing outside the diner before opening time, staring through the glass with hollow eyes. I didn't open the door. I just let him stand there, watching me clean tables like he was invisible. For once, he knew what it felt like. Later that night, I came home to find a letter taped to my door. It was from Mom. The handwriting was shaky, the ink smudged. "We have nowhere to go. Please, Clara, we're sorry. We're staying at the old motel near the gas station. Just come talk to us." The same gas station. The same one where they left me to give birth alone. The irony was almost poetic. For days, I ignored it. But one evening, after putting Ethan to bed, I sat on the couch, staring at that note. My hands trembled as I held it. There was a part of me that still wanted to be the daughter they never loved, the one who forgave, the one who kept hoping they'd change. But another part. The part that remembered the gravel cutting my knees, the contractions on the side of that curb, the empty silence when they drove away. That part wasn't ready to let go. Still, I went. Not out of love, out of closure. The motel was worse than I imagined. Flickering lights, broken vending machine, the faint smell of smoke. Room 12. I knocked once. When Mom opened the door, she looked smaller, thinner. Dad sat on the edge of the bed, coughing. He looked up, his eyes watering. Whether from sickness or regret, I couldn't tell. "Clara," Mom whispered, stepping forward. "Thank you for coming." "I didn't come to save you," I said quietly. "I came to see if you were capable of regret." Dad coughed harder, clutching his chest. "We made mistakes," he rasped. We thought you'd fail. We were wrong." I wanted to feel something. Anger, pity, maybe victory. But all I felt was exhaustion. Years of pain boiled into a strange calm. "You left me to die," I said. "And now you want me to help you live. Tell me, how's that fair?" Mom broke down. "Please, we're sorry. We have nothing left." I looked around the filthy room, the irony almost too perfect. "Neither did I said softly. "When you left me on that curb." Her sobs filled the silence, but I just turned toward the door. Before I left, I said one last thing. "You told me once I chose the baby instead of you. You were right, and I'd do it again, every single time." I walked out before they could speak. The motel door slammed shut behind me like a full stop at the end of a long sentence. That night, I held Ethan close as he slept. He stirred, mumbled, "Mommy?" And I whispered, "I'm here." For the first time, I realized being alone didn't mean being empty. It meant being free. But little did I know that freedom was about to be tested one last time, when those same people who abandoned me would return again, desperate not for forgiveness, but survival. And that was when my revenge truly began. It happened months later, one of those icy evenings where the world feels like it's holding its breath. The air stung my cheeks as I walked home from work, Ethan's tiny hand wrapped around mine. The diner had started giving me extra shifts, and for once, the weight in my chest wasn't fear, but peace. I'd built something from nothing. That night, as we reached our apartment door, I noticed something. An envelope taped to it. My name written in shaky ink. My stomach sank. I tore it open, and a line in trembling handwriting read, "He's dying, Clara. Please, the doctors won't see him without payment." It was signed, Mom. For a long moment, I stood frozen. Every memory came rushing back. The car door slamming, her voice, through glass. "You chose the baby, not us. Now they wanted the daughter they abandoned to save them?" I looked down at Ethan, who was humming softly, dragging his little backpack along the floor. "Mommy, who's that from?" I smiled faintly. "No one important, sweetheart." But that night, after he slept, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the letter under the yellow light. The part of me that once begged for their love felt something. Pity, maybe. But it was buried under something stronger. Justice. The next morning, I made a call. Not to them, but to the hospital, the same one where I'd given birth alone. "Yes," I said to the billing clerk. "I'm calling about a patient, Thomas Gallagher. He's my father." There was a pause on the line. "Ma'am, his account has been closed. He was discharged this morning due to non-payment." "Discharged?" I repeated. "Yes, against medical advice." I hung up slowly. For a moment, I couldn't move. Then I realized I didn't feel anger, not anymore. Just the cold clarity of truth. They'd finally lived the way they treated others, disposable. Later that week, I went back to that same gas station, the one where my water had broken. It had changed a little, a new sign, brighter lights, but the cracks in the pavement were still the same. The wind howled through the pumps like it remembered what happened there. I bought 2 paper cups of coffee and sat on the same bench by the trash bins, looking at the road. And then, like some cruel circle of life, an old gray car pulled up. Mom got out first. Her hair was messy, her coat too thin for winter. Dad sat in the passenger seat, coughing so hard it shook the door. "Clara," she said, voice cracking. "I didn't know where else to go." I didn't answer. I just sipped my coffee, watching the steam rise and disappear. "We're starving," she whispered. "We've lost everything. We thought you might help." I turned my eyes toward the exact spot where I'd collapsed years ago, where gravel and rain had mixed with my tears. I nodded slowly. "You remember this place, don't you?" Her face went pale. "Clara, please. You left me here, in labor, begging." "I was scared," she said, voice shaking. "We didn't know what to do." "No," I said quietly. "You knew exactly what you were doing. You just didn't care." Dad coughed again, muttering, "We made a mistake." I let the silence stretch until it felt unbearable. Then I set one of the coffees on the curb near their feet. "There. You wanted my help? That's more than you gave me." Mom's eyes filled with tears. "You can't just leave us like this." I stood, adjusting my coat. "You left me like this." "Please," she whispered. "We have nowhere to go." I turned toward my car, but before getting in, I looked back once more. "You once told me I chose the baby over my family." "You were right, but here's the thing. My son became my family. You were just people I used to know." And with that, I drove away. In the rearview mirror, I saw them fade into the distance. 2 broken figures at the same gas station where they'd abandoned me. The same curb, the same silence. Only this time it was theirs. When I got home, Ethan ran up and threw his arms around my waist. "You smell like coffee, Mommy," he said, giggling. I smiled, lifting him up. "It's been a long day, sweetheart." That night, as he slept, I sat by the window watching the snow fall, soft and slow. For the first time in years, I felt peace. Not revenge, not rage, just peace. Because sometimes you don't have to destroy people. You just have to stop saving them, and that was the day I finally forgave myself for ever begging them to stay. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.